That was in 1990, and I got a letter in the mail because I was turning 50, and it said that I should go and get a mammogram. My initial thing was I put it in my in basket. I was at work when I opened that, and it was like, no, I'm going to go and do that. And I did within the next couple of days, and sure enough, I had breast cancer. So that was the beginning of the journey, but I had fabulous doctors. I got referred to a Regina doctor, and he did a lumpectomy, I guess is what it is. It was done in the office, and then that didn't get it all. So then they did major surgery and removed the breast, and that got it all. And I was lucky that I didn't have to do chemo. I did radiation for 30 days. And at that time, I didn't have sick leave. And I worked all the way through. It worked out. And then I actually had surgery on my birthday. Yeah, that was a pretty good present. And I got out for July 1st, and Chris put me in the back of a half-ton. And I got to see the fireworks out at Regina Beach. So pretty memorable. But, it's a journey. It turned out good for me. Prairie Women got born. It's a pretty good story. I wanted to turn something that wasn't so nice into something good. And I was so involved with snowmobiling that seemed to be the avenue to take. I also knew I needed somebody to give me a hand. And my husband at that time was the president on the board of the SSA. And Carol Tulick, her husband, was a board member of the SSA. So I'd met Carol a number of times. So I thought, well, she's the perfect one. She knows snowmobiling about as much as I do too. So we started talking, and she wouldn't commit to coming on board. It took well over a year. She had other commitments, but in the end, she decided that she would come on board. And so then we started talking and came up with the name. And I had heard about a group of women in Ontario called Women on Snow. And they would go for a weekend and just ride, no men, everything, trailer. And I thought, well, that was pretty cool. So, maybe we could do something like that. Well, we needed a name, and that Women on Snow just hung around, and we just put Prairie on it, and there we were, Prairie Women on Snow. We knew that we needed to get an 18-passenger van. Carol got that, and she drove that the first year. We needed a semi-trailer and flatbed. Her husband got that, and he drove the semi. I was riding snowmobile, and my husband had a 4x4 diesel truck and I think it was an enclosed trailer at that time. And we took it, and he drove the truck in case something happened. And it did. And we did have to rescue a rider. And it was just the 4 of us and the 10 girls, and away we went. And we closed that year, that ride, with $87,000. We knew that we needed to have help more than just the 4 of us. So we reached out to the clubs, and Carol did most of that to arrange for fuel, lodging, food. We weren't going to pay a cent, and we didn't. We also went to the SSA because we knew that the women would become a club and that we'd need to purchase their liability insurance through them. And we thought, well, maybe they could just give us a little hand, because we really didn't have any money. And we had so many long distance phone calls, and that kind of thing was happening. And it went to a board meeting, and they did. They gave us $1,000. Those club members, they would lead us into towns and lead us out of the towns. We stayed on trail quite a bit. There was some off trail riding that we did, which the girls even continued to do more over the years, because they wanted to go into communities that we hadn't reached out to that weren't on the trail system, and they did a fabulous job doing that. There would be people in those clubs that arranged for breakfasts, lunches, lodging. All of that was arranged prior to anybody leaving the initial part. Those clubs were so good. They would groom those trails if the girls were coming. You know, everything would get ready. Banquets. I mean, it was banquet after banquet, and all those girls up at the front. It was an emotional time too. In snowmobiling, pins are always been a part of any event. It's just the way it was. And it was pretty customary to see people that had attended numerous snowmobile events, and they'd have all these pins pinned on their vests. And it just seemed like the natural thing to do. And to reach out to Elmer Brenner and have him design the pin. He is a graphic artist in Regina that I had worked with, and it was just, he was more than happy to do it. And that pin stayed, they didn't make any changes to it, so it is a keeper. Those pins, I mean, if you're wearing one, you're a survivor. That's a good thing. Before the ride would ever begin, we had met with the Cancer Society, and it asked if we could have 100% of the funds stay in Saskatchewan. And they agreed to that. In fact, they even put it in writing. And I think that in itself was quite a feat for Prairie Women, you know, all Saskatchewan people to keep it here. And it did all the time. And I felt good about that. And how much money it raised. I mean, almost $3 million. And I loved it when the equipment side of it began to become part of it. And I think, to me, being a breast cancer survivor, and sort of that was the basis of why I wanted to get this going. I knew how important that equipment really is. The awareness that those girls spread, you know, they raised funds, but the awareness, and that's had an impact on many, many lives. I learned that even men can get breast cancer. And that we discovered that on the first ride. And I'll never forget that either. That was an eye-opener. The other thing that we promoted was snowmobiling. That was the basis of what got the whole thing going. And it was practiced, and it was talked about, and, you know, there was money, there was awareness, and there was safe snowmobiling. So that was the original mission. And it stayed intact, and I'm pretty proud of that. We also thought that we'd try to make it a Canadian ride. So we reached out to Alberta and Manitoba one of the years, and we did have riders that came on board from Manitoba and Alberta that rode with us, but it just sort of fizzled out. And we never did go. We wanted to go national, do the ride right across Canada, but you know, maybe that will happen in time. And the initial idea of the 10 riders, the semi, that all stayed intact, which was what we thought it should be, other than they shortened the time frame. That's a big commitment to say that I'm going to leave my family for 10 days. So they shortened it. But, you know, in the end, it's had its time. It's had its time, and it did really well, and I think it's fantastic. Having a wind up in Humboldt is awesome. Going for their last ride together, awesome. I talked to Carol last night. She's traveling back from Arizona. They were in Texas and on their way, so she won't be at this event either, but she wanted me to send her best wishes to everybody and to thank everyone for all that they did to keep Prairie Women alive. And I thank everybody too. Yeah, I'm pretty proud of everybody. Thank everybody from the bottom of my heart for 20 years.